First of all, we're going to go over to Arab, who is in Palestine. I think everybody knows Arab is Marwan's son and has tirelessly campaigned for his release and has been over to the UK a number of times. We're hoping to welcome him again soon. And Arab will speak publicly about his father's role in Palestinian politics and the advocacy that he's doing, raising international awareness of both his father's detention and broader concerns for Palestinian political prisoners. He has been widely quoted in international media urging global support for his father's release as a catalyst for legitimate Palestinian leadership, unity, democracy and self-determination. I think maybe it's worth saying also at this point that we're expecting a book later in the year from Marwan, so Arab I'm sure will tell us about that as well. So Arab, over to you.
Thank you so much, Alex. Thank you. So I'm really glad to be here. I've been to the House a few times to address the issue of my father and the issue, of course, of the Palestinian cause and Palestinian politics in general. I just want to start with thanking Paul, Simon, Khalid, and the Human Rights APPG. You know, this is a very important issue because I think many people, when they talk about Palestinian political prisoners, and especially when it comes to my father's issue, many people look at it as a symbolic issue. And I think that it's our job to correct that because it's not a symbolic issue. It's a need for the Palestinian people right now. If we look at what the Palestinian people have gone through in the last 2+ years, we will find that yes, we were, of course, a victim of the aggression of the current Israeli government, a government that, has all the space and blank check by the international community to do whatever they want with the Palestinian people. But I'm not here to complain about that. I'm here to show a pathway that is different and a political pathway that is different and that can change the status quo. In the last few months, we saw that the UK and many other countries have recognized the Palestinian state. But I think that the recognition by itself is going to be considered as symbolic in history books as long as there are no actual steps that are being taken on the ground. And to go back and to give some context there, I feel that it's been a shame on the Palestinian politics and leadership side that we didn't have any political initiative that can change the status quo and change the political infrastructure in general. I think that we were on the receiving end of all the political initiatives that came from the international community, but there was a very clear and obvious lack of Palestinian political initiatives. And this is exactly why we were calling for the democratic renewal of the Palestinian politics. If we want to be honest and take a deep look at the Palestinian politics, we haven't had elections for more than 20 years. We don't have a legislative council for 19 years at the moment. And you all know as parliamentarians how that can make a whole political system dysfunctional. And I think that if we think about it, we need to change that. And changing that can only happen with the democratic renewal and with a new pathway, a new leadership that really represents the people. And I think that these temporary or shortcuts into, a solution and bringing different committees and stuff like that is not going to solve it on the long run. That doesn't mean that we're against anything that can make the lives of the people in Gaza especially, but also in the West Bank, better in the immediate term. But I think not having that with a clear vision towards a democratic renewal will be very problematic. And we will be, unfortunately, making the same mistakes again and again. And I think that we really welcome the decision of having the Fatah Party Conference, which my father is a Central Committee member of, that will happen in May 14th. And then we will have the Palestinian National Council elections in November that will replace the Palestinian Parliament. At least we will have that function within the Palestinian politics, and it will give many people the opportunity to participate in elections. And hopefully we will see younger faces. We will see more women participation in Palestinian politics and the whole new face of the Palestinian politics, because as long as we're not unified and we don't know what we want, there is no way we can get to what we want. And as Palestinians, we lack that in general. And I think that's exactly why people look at my father as a source of hope. I always say my father doesn't have the magic stick. He's not going to change everything and fix it in one moment. But I think that he represents a clear foundation towards that path. And if anyone follows his political career, you will find that he's someone who's very brave in the struggle against the Israeli occupation for more than 50 years, where he spent more than 30 years in prison, 7 years of exile, and he knew exactly what he was signing up for and the sacrifices that he was going to have to pay for. But at the same time, he was also very brave in the peace process. And if you ask many of the Israeli officials who dealt with him personally, they are the ones who are right now, and in the past 2 decades, they were the ones who asked for his release, because they know what he represents for the Palestinian people, because they know that he's brave in the peace process, and he's always said that the peace, but for example, Oslo is an opportunity that needs to be given an opportunity. And he's the one who was convincing the Palestinian people with that. But then we also what happened in what's known as the second Intifada, the Palestinian uprising in 2000. And I will leave the legal issues to Mr. Simon, who is way more qualified than me and has covered it. And I would love to learn more about the unlawful court and sentence that my father has gotten in Israeli prisons. His continued imprisonment is a political problem. And if we look at the last 15 years, you will find that more than 800 Palestinians with life sentences have been released by the Israeli government in different exchanges with with Israeli captives as well. But they keep avoiding my father's name time and time again. And we need to ask ourselves why. And it's because it's very obvious, it's not a secret anymore, that this current Israeli government doesn't want peace. They want only peace, or that includes full dominance over the Palestinian people. This is a government that has been vocal about their plans and objectives of ethnically cleansing the Palestinian people. They have committed a genocide against the people of Gaza, and right now they are basically saying that Oslo doesn't work anymore, doesn't exist in the current political situation. And I think this is very dangerous, because what they're after they did what they did in Gaza and make it inhabitable, their second biggest threat is having a Palestinian legitimate representation and the Palestinian agency. And that's exactly where it comes to the Palestinian Authority. And yes, the Palestinian Authority hasn't been popular at all. And I'm one of their biggest critics when it comes to their performance. But that doesn't mean that we have, we're ready to let go of the only Palestinian agency that represents the Palestinian people. The current Israeli government is very obvious and clear about their intentions of killing that agency, so the Palestinian people don't have representation, and then they can continue towards their full annexation of the West Bank and continue to make the lives of the people of Gaza hell on purpose, so they can dominate the whole land. And I think that perpetuates the cycle of violence. Anyone that has any information about the history of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict will understand that these solutions have never worked. It's brought more and more violence. And I think that in order for us to stop that violence, we need to come to the table, we need to negotiate. And in order for us to get there, we need a Palestinian leadership that really represents the Palestinian people, so they can sell any political settlement towards the Palestinian people, because you can't blame the Palestinians at the moment that we don't trust the international community, we don't trust the mediation of certain countries, and we don't trust, of course, the Israeli government that is very vocal about their intentions of killing the Palestinian people's dream of statehood. And I think that, the position of the UK as a defender of international law is very important. The UK is engaged in deep discussions when it comes to Palestinian future. And I think that in order for them to really help the Palestinian politics and the Palestinian agency, they need to make sure that Marwan Barghouti represents a way to move forward from where we're at within the Palestinian politics. We also shouldn't forget that my father has been a Palestinian parliamentarian for 30 years. He's still a parliament member. And I think that, of course, Israel did not have any legitimacy in arresting him or kidnapping him from Ramallah and moving him into Tel Aviv and giving him all of what we saw in his trial. Now, what we're asking for is going to be covered, of course, when we get to the actions. But I think that honestly, I've been going back and forth to the UK, to London, and I have been in the Parliament meeting MPs a lot, and I see that there is a lot of collaboration from many of them, but at the same time, it wasn't a position that the UK government is taking. And I think it's time to take braver steps. And saying we support the two-state solution without doing anything about it is deepening the problem, because you're just giving the Palestinian people false hopes. And if you're really serious about taking steps into helping the Palestinian people into having our dream of statehood that can end this cycle of violence once and for all, I think that supporting Palestinian democracy is very important. Supporting the Palestinian agency that is operating at the moment, even though you could call it dysfunctional in so many ways, but that's the function that is already there. We need to support it. And the third thing is calling for the release of my father. Of course, many people will take it as a humanitarian issue, which it is. In the last 2 years, my father has been through a lot. He's been in solitary confinement right after October 7th until today, which is, of course, part of the collective punishment policy of the Israeli government, because obviously he had nothing to do with that. But at the same time, he was assaulted multiple times. He got injured. He suffers from broken ribs as we speak from the security guards. And if that's not an invitation to speak out against the violations, the clear violations of international law, I don't think what is. My expectations is that the UK government would even take it further to call for his release so he can change the status quo and the Palestinian politics and take us into a path where there is a real hope for a political settlement. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I'll be here for any questions after we listen from the others. Thank you.
Thank you, Arab.